Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Rachel Gonzalez. I'm a recovering perfectionist, just trying to become more like Jesus and live in God's perfect will for my life. Today, I have an exciting announcement to share. If you saw my Instagram post last week after I posted my previous video, I gave a little teaser about what's coming up. And so we're moving. I thought that maybe it would be fun today to talk about all of the different places that we have lived so far in our short 7 years of marriage. This will be our fourth home together that we will be moving into, including all of the other crazy living conditions that we have gone under while doing home builds and things like that. So, what's crazy about this is that, I never moved my entire life. So from when I was born until I went to college, I lived in the exact same home, exact same place the whole time. And then I went to college. I moved back with my parents for a year, and then I moved here to Austin. So my first location that I lived in Austin was an apartment. And I talked about that. And I talked about just like my testimony and coming down to Austin and, how we found that apartment. And then I lived there it was really 11 months. I lived there from like August until the very end of June. So it was an 11-month lease. And then in June, I actually bought my first house just by myself. My parents helped me, gave me like a little loan that I paid back to them. But basically, I lived by myself in this apartment. It was just a 1-bedroom for almost a year. Found a home in Elgin where I was teaching that I really loved and was in my price range to be able to afford. Actually, my mortgage when I moved was $200 cheaper than my 1-bedroom apartment in Austin. So I was actually saving money by buying a house. So I bought that home on my own in 2014. And it was a cute little home. It was like a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, right across the street from the school where I worked. And I loved living there. I thought because of where I came from and how I had lived my whole life that we would live there for like 10 years, until we had too many kids and couldn't fit in there anymore. And so then Jose and I got married in 2017 and he moved in. So I think we were, let's see. Yeah, so 2017, we got married. We lived there for the rest of that year, for 2017. And then in January of 2018, we sold that home. So it was like, what is that, a little over 3 years that I lived there, mostly by myself and then a little bit with Jose. And he kind of convinced me like, hey, if we sell this house, we could make a little bit of money and we could build a house somewhere else. And we already at the time owned a property that we were planning to build on. If you don't know, my husband likes to buy properties and build homes on them and then sell them. And so that's kind of like his side project that he does. He has a normal 9-to-5 work, job, but he likes to do that on the side. And so, he was kind of just starting to get into that when we got married. And so we had bought this lot and he's like, well, we could build a house on that, but we could make a pretty good amount of money on that house. And I'm going to be very honest that I'm an open book. I'm very transparent. Sometimes people would call me an oversharer, which is why I now have a YouTube channel because I can share whatever I want. And people can either watch it or not to what they feel comfortable with. But at that time, I had bought the house in 2014 for $125,000, which is crazy because now homes in Elgin are going for over $200,000. But in 2018, that January, we sold it for $175,000. So we made about $50,000 on that we were able to then use as like a down payment for when we decided to build. And at the same time, we were actually looking at another lot in McDade, which is where we currently live. And we ended up buying that lot And then we had two. So we were kind of like, well, which one do we build on? Which one's going to be, more functional for us? And ultimately, because the lot that we decided on in McDade was 7 acres and, it felt a little bit more long term. Like we could really build our dream home on a 7-acre lot and own it for a very long time. So we made the decision to do that. And the way that Jose convinced me on buying this lot also, because I am the kind of person who really likes to live in a community. I grew up in a neighborhood that had sidewalks and a playground and a lot of neighbors and a lot of friends. So it was hard for me to picture moving out into the country on 7 acres and having not really a lot of neighbors. So he takes me to this lot and he's like, look, it's 7 acres, but it was a long track. And so there were neighbors next door. They weren't super close, but there were neighbors all along the street and still no sidewalks. But he goes, takes me out there at sunset, nonetheless, and says, look at how great this is. And I stood there and I watched the sunset from that property. And I was like, yes, for sure. We need to buy this. Thinking that it was going to be a long-term thing and we would build on the other smaller lot first, have some kids, and then we'd build on this later. And that's not what happened. We decided to end up building on there because we could build a bigger home. It was further out from Austin, so we just could pay less taxes and it was just going to be cheaper. So we decided to do that. So in 2018, while our home was being built in McDade, we lived with my mother and father-in-law. They live in Bastrop, and we just lived with them for, it was 10 months. During that time, we got pregnant with JJ. And so when we moved into our new home in McDade, that, right then, I think it was September of 2018, I was expecting JJ and we had him in January of the following year, 2019. So, we brought JJ home to that house, our house in McDade. And we really loved that house, but we always know that there was something else out there potentially for us, because we would see things in the house and be like, oh, we should have this different, or we should have this different. And we really wanted to build a pool because that's my favorite thing in the world, is to swim and read a book and lay by the pool. And so we would always kind of think we could do this again and make it better. So I think it was in 2020, we had Brady. We brought him home to that house. It's kind of hard to remember because we've moved around so much. But we were kind of at the point where we had to decide, are we going to make improvements to this home, add a pool, do all these things, or are we going to move somewhere else? And with having Brady, it was we had 2 kids now, and Jose would go out and he would mow the lawn, and it would take him 5+ hours to do that because the yard is so big. It was 7 acres. We kind of sat down and talked about it. And I just said, look, this is a lot, for you to be on a Sunday out for 5 hours. You need rest from work, and we really want to spend time with you, So he decided, well, let me look at some other things. And one of his friends was selling some lots a little bit further down the road from our home where we lived. And it was so great because, with Jose liking to buy and sell properties, we were kind of buying and selling things here and there and kind of making some extra money on the side. So we were able to afford purchasing a lot. I think we bought this 3-acre lot where we currently live for about $90,000. And maybe 3 months after we bought this lot, it appreciated $30,000 immediately. So it was in March of 2021. It was right after Brady was born. I remember we went to Mexico and Jose was posting some homes on Zillow. So you have to pay for a Zillow account. So he had already paid for it because he was posting homes for his little side business. And he goes, I'm just going to list our house on Zillow. And so I was like, are you serious? Whatever, fine. So we had built that house all in land, and the building for like $412,000. Jose listed it for $650,000. And I was like, there's no way we're going to get that. So sure, go ahead and list it. It'll be on, on Zillow forever. And eventually we're just going to take it down. Within a month, we had an offer. I remember we were in Mexico. They called and they said, we want to buy your house and we'd like to pay full asking price. And Jose was like, yes, it's sold. That's it. Like we sold the house. So when we got back from Mexico, it was like within a month. I think we moved out in May. So like maybe the first weekend of May. So it was like a little bit over a month. We packed up our house, put everything into storage. We had nowhere to live, mind you. But we made like $300,000 off of our home, after what we had paid on it and down payments and things. So what we owed on it, we cleared about $300,000. So we just packed up and we were planning to take that money and purchase a home in Elgin or Manor or somewhere in the near area to, just live in while we were building our new house and to maybe rent afterwards. Well, at that time, clearly the housing market was insane. Like people were just buying things left and right. The houses were way more expensive than what we wanted to pay and could pay, honestly, while we were building a house. So we decided, one of Jose's coworkers was so gracious and lent us what they call a fifth wheel. It's an RV basically, and lent that to us. So we parked that on Jose's parents' property because they live on this very large ranch and have a lot of space. So we parked it there and basically lived in that RV for the following 11 months. It was supposed to be like 6 or 7, which I knew was probably not going to happen, but I really didn't imagine it being, almost a year. But so we lived in that. Really, we stayed, sometimes with his parents as well. On really cold nights, we'd like go inside. I ended up getting pregnant with Cooper at the time, while we lived there. So I slept inside a lot with JJ because, the bed in the RV was just really uncomfortable for me. Jose had to have it really soft, and I needed something more firm for my hips while I was pregnant. And this is ultimately why we bought a Sleep Number bed because we have just different sleeping habits. And so, we just lived in that little RV, and then also, hung out with his parents a lot. We did dinner with them most of the nights, and things like that. So, it was really nice. And I will say, so this is the second time that we lived with his parents while our house was being built, and they are amazing people who take us in when we do crazy things. And it's a nice time to be able to really get to know them and for them to get like really good quality time with their grandchildren. So, while some people would be like, I could never live with my in-laws, it was, really fun for us and really a sweet time in our life. So definitely a blessing when Cooper passed and I was having a hard time. It was nice to have extra help and family and things like that. We also had COVID while we lived there, and we quarantined in the RV. So it was nice for them to also be there and bring us food and things like that during those times. So we built the house where we're currently in, and that would have been our third home together, right? So we had the one in Elgin, we had the one down the road from where we live now, in McDade, and then now we built this house. What we did basically is we took the floor plan from our previous house in McDade and we decided to just make the improvements. We added a pool and a pool house. And I actually am going to be sharing a full home tour of this house because, one, I love this home so much. This is our dream home. If Jose and I could pick, exactly what we want in a house, like this is it. Minor things here and there where we're like, oh, we could have done that better still, even after, this being our second rendition. But we love it. It's so much space. It has our pool. It has a movie theater room. It has so many things that we have always dreamed of and wanted. And the fact that we were able to make so much money off of our previous builds, and then also because we're invested in a lot of real estate outside of those homes, we have been very fortunate to be able to afford building this house. Also, we work very hard and we, make good salaries as well because we decided to do that with our lives. But it's been so nice to have this house. I know I talked a lot about just like when I feel peace, I know that God has called me to that thing. So like moving to Texas, felt so much peace about it. Marrying Jose, so much peace. When we left Elgin, I was sad for a little bit, but moving into our house in McDade, it was a peaceful decision, standing on that land that he took me to see the view and, the sunset. I mean, God's hand was on that. And I know that. And all of that led us to be able to make all of that money to be able to build this home, which was our dream home. And I thought, again, that this would be at least 10 years. I got to the point where we moved into this house, not to trust that we would be here forever because, my husband has a propensity to want to move and to do different things. And he's not set in his ways. He's not like me where it's like he hates change or what have you. He wants to make moves, make changes, just do all these things. And, I think that has been really good for me because otherwise I would still be living in my little house in Elgin, with 3 kids and trying to make all that work. And then, it'd be a lot different, right? Not bad, just different. And so, I am very glad that my husband pushes me outside of that comfort zone. When he decided to start doing real estate, he invested with his friend to begin with. And I was like, well, you can have $7,000 to put into your investment account or whatever, and just what has come from that has been unimaginable to me. So I have been trying to be less risk averse and trying to just go with it. So this new home that we are purchasing is my doing. And Jose has told me recently, well, if we go broke, it's going to be because of you, because now you're making all these risks, So I just hope that with all of the favor that we have had in the past couple of years, that would continue. But we put our home on the market. It's now completely listed. And I'll probably list it, the website here on the YouTube channel so that you can take a look at the photos and, see what the house has to offer. And we decided to list it after purchasing the new home because right now homes are still, I don't want to say cheap, but cheaper than they're going to be when rates start to rise again or lower again. Sorry. So because of the fact that interest rates on homes have increased, a lot of people are not buying houses because the mortgages are astronomical, which is true. Our mortgage in the home that we're about to buy, the mortgage is going to be cheaper, but the monthly payment is going to be higher because of the interest. So that is tough, but we are hopeful because they've said that they're going to start lowering rates this year. And it's possible that might not happen. So I hope it does, obviously, because one of the things that we're depending on is the rates lowering. So that way somebody will want to buy our home. And we're hoping to make a profit on it and then use that to pay off some debt. So the way that this decision came about is because about a year and a half ago now, when I was in my administration certification program, I was super anxious about where I was going to be an administrator and where my kids were going to go to school and all of these things. And at the time, I was a counselor in Elgin. And there were just a lot of things that were making me nervous. And I'm going to actually do a whole video on just this topic. So I'm not going to go too much into it now. But essentially, I made the decision at the end of all of my worrying that I'm most likely, if I am able, if we sell this house and we're able to financially afford it, I am going to be staying home with the kids to homeschool them. And again, that's going to be a video for another time because that's a whole, God led me to that in itself, right? And I want to do a video on that. But in making that decision, I also knew that this home that we currently live in was not the home that I could homeschool in because I am a very social person. I just need other people around, for my mental health. I need to interact with adults. I love my children, but I cannot be at home with my children all day long with no other adult interaction. And then, my husband's going to be coming home from work where he's worked all day, and I can't expect him to come home and entertain me and be my only person that I get to talk to. So I had mentioned to him, I just said, hey, I think we might need to move if I'm going to stay home. There are co-ops nearby in Elgin and Bastrop, but we also live like 20 to 30 minutes from each of those places. And just with having more kids and, all these things, it's like traveling to these places with nap times and meal times and all of that kind of stuff. It's just not really conducive to having a good schedule. So, he immediately the next day, because he is the most encouraging person in the entire world, he will take any idea that I have and he will be like, yes, go with it. Let's do that. And he does. And so immediately he started sending me homes for sale in Bastrop. And I told him, I said, whew, okay, I just thought about this. I haven't even really prayed about it yet. I was just mentioning it. Can we take some time to pray about it? So we start praying. He keeps sending me houses and I tell him, like, these are my criteria I have to have. I want the community to have a pool. I don't necessarily want to have a pool anymore. Someday I would love to have a pool again in our own backyard. But right now, with me quitting my job potentially and, not having my income, paying somebody to take care of our pool because we don't know how to do it ourselves is just not really in our budget. So I said I would like to have a subdivision that has a pool because that is one of the things that I am giving up that I'm very sad about. Also, the subdivision has to have sidewalks. I want my children to be able to go outside and ride their bikes and it be safe. And, them be able to ride their bikes on their sidewalk and, play with other kids in the neighborhood. So we knew what we were looking for was basically a very kid-friendly, family-friendly neighborhood. And there are many of those in Bastrop. However, many of the subdivisions just don't have sidewalks. And so we were on a search. This was in July that I mentioned this to him. I literally mentioned it on the way to our Blink-182 concert we were going to. And since then, we had been looking for homes. So about 5, almost 6 months. And finally, he kept telling me he really likes this subdivision called The Colony. And he was like, it's really nice. There's these 1 acre lots because, he still wants to have that little bit of land. But the place where it had the 1 acre lots was not, they didn't have sidewalks. So I was like, I don't know. I don't think that's the neighborhood. I just don't think that's it. Let's keep looking. So I was looking, I think I asked on some Facebook groups about different subdivisions, started looking at those. Nothing was really coming up for me. And like I said, I knew that I was looking for peace in the decision, and everything that I had looked at and seen, I was like, it just doesn't feel right to me. It feels like a compromise. And if we're going to leave this beautiful home that we have, then I don't want it to be a compromise. I want it to be what I'm looking for. And so, he started telling me about they're building some things, new shops and restaurants and things in Bastrop. And so we kind of looked over in this area where they are building some of those shops and things. And I was like, man, like when this thing gets built, the homes that are here are going to skyrocket in value because there's going to be all this stuff here. I think they're putting in like a hotel, things like that. So it's really starting to boom. And I said, this is an investment opportunity. Honestly, if we can get one of these homes now, then, in a couple of years from now, it probably will increase in value and it would be a great investment. So we have a home equity line of credit, which we use to buy homes and then sell them, or like we rent or whatever. So we've been doing that. And we decided to free that up to use to buy the home that we're going to live in. So in December, Jose just said to me, he goes, well, let's just use our HELOC to buy one of these houses now while the prices are lower before they skyrocket, right? And then we'll sell our house in the new year when rates start to go down and hopefully somebody will buy our house. I said, great. I really like these houses in this area by this new shopping area and restaurants. Sorry, I just got over being sick. So we decide to go just look, right? We get in our car, we take the kids, we invite Jose's family to come. They all come with us, his parents and our in-law, sister and brother-in-law and their kids. And we all go, and we had a list of like 8 or 9 houses that we wanted to see that were in our price range, and that met our criteria, right? They all had the sidewalks. They're very close to this park that I really like. There's a new amenity center being built right next to that area it's supposed to have a pool, but we think it might be a splash pad. But it's also the subdivision also has other pools and fitness centers and things that we have access to. So we decided to go, just look at the houses, see what's going on, see if we like them. We go, we look at all of the houses that were on our list, and then there were 2 houses that were open that were not on our list. And when I tell you, because this is how God works, that we walk into that house that wasn't on our list, just happened to be open. We walked in and we said, this is really nice. This is very similar to what we've been looking at in the other houses, because it's a builder built subdivision. So that means that basically the builder bought that plot of land and built all of the homes on it with just different floor plans and different trim levels and things like that. So we go into this house and I really like it. It looks very similar to one of the other ones that we really liked. But it was when I walked into the backyard that I just looked out and I said, this is it. This is the house. And I felt such peace, I felt that peace that I was looking for. Like, this is the house that I prayed to God for, right? And so we look at that house. I'm like, I'm pretty sure this is it. We find out moments later, the realtor who is showing us these houses, it's Golf Cart Realtor on Instagram. You should follow him because he's selling our house and, is a very good realtor. And so we look at it and it looks like the house had dropped in price like $50,000 or something just the day before. So he was like, oh, I didn't even realize that this house was so cheap comparatively to the ones that we were looking at, because they just dropped the price. And we're like, oh my gosh, this is perfect. Well, then we go over and we look at another house that was open, that was not on our list. And it was beautiful. Okay. It had like a cute little porch where we could have put our rocking chairs that we have on our wraparound porch here. It had a beautiful backyard that overlooked like a little creek and had a really nice patio that Jose really liked. However, it was only 4 bedrooms and was also like $40,000 more than the home that we were looking at. So for a moment, I got tempted, and Jose did too, by a little bit shinier of a home because we were like, well, this is really nice. Like it has that porch and it was a 3-car garage instead of a 2-car garage. And so we were kind of like, maybe this is the one. But then I started to feel that anxiety, like, I don't know. I'm having anxiety about this decision. And my mother-in-law suggested, she said, hey, why don't you and Jose just go over to the house and go look at it, just the two of you, and see how you feel. And that was the best advice that I could have gotten, because we walked back into that house and I looked at Jose and I said, this is just it. I know that house is like beautiful and it has a great backyard and things, I said, but this home has 5 bedrooms, which we host a lot. And that one only has 4. And, I think that this is going to be better for our family. So we decided on it. We literally put in an offer that day. It was accepted. Monday, we dropped off our earnest money and we are waiting. I think next Monday is when we sign, and we actually have purchased the home. And it's crazy because, I didn't think that it would happen this way. I didn't think that we were going to go look at homes and then buy a house that day. I didn't think that, but it is the way that it happened. And it happened, I think, perfectly for us. Since buying the house or like putting in our offer, the price of the house dropped more and we ended up getting even better deal. And like I said, our mortgage monthly is going to be more expensive because of the interest rate. But we're hoping that will only be short term and then we can refinance. And so, we're just super hopeful. One of my goals, it's on my vision board, is that I want to be debt free, and that would look like paying off our cars, all of our investment properties being paid for so that we can make money off of them. And that's something that we really want to be working towards this year. So I wanted to share a story from the Bible that really resonated with me. It's not exactly the same, but it resonated with me in a way of like, just not holding on to what we would consider idols or, things of this world, basically. So, my pastor talked about this. I have it in my Bible, so I might be looking down at that. But, my pastor mentioned this on New Year's Eve. So the last day of 2023. And I was like, this is exactly, it really hit me. So, this story is from Daniel 5, and it's about, I don't know how to say his name, Belshazzar. He is a king, and basically what Daniel tells him is like, you saw your predecessor, Nebuchadnezzar, have idols and worship, things that he shouldn't have been and doing all these things. And you knew, you even knew, that's not how the king should be living. We should be living for God, all these things. Yet you're doing the same thing. And one of the things that my pastor said, he said, this was all given to him by God, but he forgot where it came from, and to me, that is just the epitome of giving up this dream home that we built, that we love, to move into something that is not tailored exactly to what we want. It doesn't have all the bells and whistles that we have here. However, it is a place that I feel called to. I feel that God is asking us to walk away from the shiny, beautiful things of this world and live a little bit simpler, and because it's for His glory. Me being able to be with my kids every day, to do what I love, being a teacher with my children. Again, I'll talk more about that later, but that is a joy that I anticipate and I look forward to so much. But it requires some sacrifice. We cannot continue to live the way that we live without my income. And, we're hopeful that some of the rentals that we have and, some of this real estate that we're doing things with will help I can't say replace my income, because I don't think that it's going to replace it, but, just supplement it basically. So that way we're not completely losing all of my income. I'm hopeful that that will be the case. But I know that everything that we have here is from God. The reason that we were able to build this house is because God gave favor to us and said, you're going to sell that house and make a huge profit because you followed me, right? And you're going to be able to have these investments and do all of these things because of me, right? God, right? He's like, we can't have any of it without him. All of the money that we have is from him. We work hard, yes, but that's, by the mercy of God as well, that we are able to go to work and make a good income, and that we have come into these jobs and been able to, we have the skills required for them. So we are recognizing that everything we have is from the Lord. And we are willing to give these things up, to have a simpler life, to have more time with our children. And I am hopeful that by, following God's will in that way, that our lives would just be abundantly blessed, and that we would just be happy, right? That we would feel joy, that we would know that God is with us every step of the way, and that we are living for him. So truly, the sale of this home is heartbreaking, but we are joyful knowing that we are walking in the will of the Lord, that we are finding peace in the decisions that we're making. And I am so grateful for this story, Daniel 5 in the Bible, that kind of showed me even more so that what we're doing is correct, that we are living in his will, and that we will see the fruit of that. So my prayer is that this story would be helpful, encouraging to somebody else. Maybe you're holding on to something, an idol. Maybe it's not a house, but maybe it's a car, or, something else. Trying to think of what people buy, jewelry. I don't know. I don't spend a lot of money on things for myself. So maybe you're holding on to something and you're thinking, I don't need this, but I want it, but I can't afford it. And there's something else maybe I should be doing instead. It could also be addiction of some sort, or, whatever it is. If God is asking you to give something up, to walk in his will, this is your sign. This is your encouragement to do it, because it will be so glorious and so joyful for you on the back end of it. And we have seen it time and time again in our lives happening. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that, while this might be a shock to some people, that we're selling our home, I'm excited to show you what our home actually looks like here, and then hopefully doing a home tour of our new home. And then that will be, where I'll be doing my videos from, and not this little library closet that I have, which I switched to because the pool house that I was doing it in last week was very echoey. So I'm sure you probably, if you watched that video, noticed that. But thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.